I cannot tell you how many times I've had someone say to me, Lauren, I have been working on growing my email list, but I have 18 subscribers or I have 108 subscribers and I just can't seem to get anywhere. How do I grow my email list without using paid ads? How do I do this in a way that isn't going to cost me a fortune, but is going to give me the results that I want and is going to grow my email list fairly quickly? And today I have special guest Kristen Dunow, who is going to be sharing how she used a growth strategy inside of RTA to grow her email list by over 4,000 members in just a few short days. She's going to go through the whole thing step by step. You're going to get all of that. Make sure you stick around and you listen to the whole thing all the way through, because at the very end, I'm going to be talking about some mistakes that I see a lot of people make when they misapply some of the strategies that Kristen is going to be talking about today. But let's go ahead and let's dive right in and let's talk to Kristen. Hey, Kristen, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I'm so excited to have this conversation. You know, I love email marketing, and you're going to be talking tonight about, I say it's tonight while we're recording. You're going to be talking about how you started growing your email list. And I'm so excited for people to hear because this was actually a request. So we did a challenge in RTA, and you had posted inside of the group and shared the success that you had with running this email marketing event. And another member of RTA reached out to me and said, I want to hear more about what Kristen did. And so that's where this kind of came from. And so I reached out to you and I was like, would you please come on the podcast and share? Because I think that there are so many who would love to hear. So let's just start with tell us a little bit about you. Tell us about your TPT story, your TPT journey, kind of your niche. Just tell us about you.
Okay, well, I'm a classroom teacher. I still teach, and I've been teaching for over 30 years. So I had a lot of experience and started creating classroom resources for myself. And about 8 years ago, I decided to sell them on Teachers Pay Teachers. And my niche is kind of literacy, reading and writing, but I do all things for first grade. So I started my store about 8 years ago, and I never really took it seriously. It was pretty much a hobby for me until about 3 years ago. And that's when I started to really grow my business. And I've always had an email list, but never really took it seriously. I didn't know how to do it. So that's why I was really excited when you mentioned it in one of the challenges that we had done and kind of motivated me to do it.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about that email marketing, growing your list. When you first set out to grow your email list, because we're talking about specifically tonight through collaborations, like collaborative events with other sellers, how many subscribers did you have?
In the beginning, I had probably about 450 subscribers, and I got those through some opt-ins that I had done over the last couple of years, but I just didn't feel like I was getting enough traction with them.
Yeah.
It was kind of slow and steady, which I was okay with, but I knew I could do better.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do better.
So let's tell us just the basics of this event that you wanted to run. So like before you even reached out to other sellers to participate, like what was the first thought that you had in your head as far as like what kind of event or collaborative event you wanted to host in order to gain some opt-ins?
Well, I wanted to do some kind of like a freebie thing at back to school time because I think there's a big need for teachers. They want to do things across the gamut for their grade level because I'm always looking for new things to do at the beginning of the year. So I thought of doing a collaboration with some other teacher, but my problem was I know a lot of TPT sellers, but I didn't know a lot of people in my niche.
Yeah.
So I had to take a risk. And something that you had suggested in your challenge was to just reach out to people. So I went in some Facebook groups that I'm members with. And I'm usually pretty quiet on Facebook. I get ideas. And if somebody says something of value, I'll jump in there. But for the most part, I'm pretty quiet. And I was super nervous to do that, because there were some big sellers in these groups. So, here I thought of myself as like a little fish in the ocean. But But I reached out and I just said, hey, I'm interested in doing a collaboration. I'm looking for other teachers that are like kindergarten and first grade. And I gave them the dates of my event. And I got over 50 responses from people
Yeah.
volunteering to do something.
Which is amazing because I think so many people, that's literally the number one question that I get asked is, where do you find people to do these events? And they're afraid that they're going to ask and nobody's going to want to participate and they're not going to have anybody who's going to, but it's really not so. When you're offering to do the legwork, you're saying, I'm organizing this, people are all about it. Like in 50. Yeah.
Yep. And I didn't think I would get 50. And then I had other people, friends of friends that got on these lists, emailed me later and said, hey, I want to do it. So I had way more than 50. I had way more than enough people to do it.
Yeah.
Then it got real. It got real. I had to get organized, and then I had to figure out who I wanted to do it. So I just went with the first, couple of people on the list, reached out to them first and to see if they could do it. And that's kind of where I got started.
Yeah. So from those 50 people, did you have, because it would take a really long time to get a quality event together for 50 people, right? We're talking about having to split that up between, 10 events, or so, quite a few. What was your participation criteria? Did you have a way that you were narrowing down, or were you just reaching out to them and saying, hey, this is what I'm looking for? And would you be able to do this? Like how did you kind of narrow that down?
That's pretty much what I did. Can you do it? These are the dates. I need it by this time. Can you do it? And I kind of started at the top and worked my way down to the bottom is pretty much what I did because I didn't know some of these people. So that's kind of what I did. And I just wanted a resource for back to school time. And I said, it doesn't have to be in your store. It can be anything you want it to be. It can be in your store, but it can't be a freebie. And I wanted it to be worth about $5, just so everyone was contributing something
Equally.
of equal value. And that's kind of where I got started.
So how many people participated in this first event? How many people did you have?
I had about 10 to 15. Because what happened was I would invite people, they said they couldn't do it, and then they called back and said, yes, I can. And I already had it, and I felt bad, and it was my first event. I just didn't want to say no.
Yeah.
So we had about 15 people, which was quite a lot, but it was manageable. And when I planned it, I wanted to do as much as I possibly could to take, because it's back to school time. I didn't want to put classroom teachers in a position where they had to do extra work. And some people were still on summer break. And again, who wants to do work in the summertime? So I wanted to do as much as I possibly could to get the ball rolling for this. So I mapped out everything that I needed or that I would want to have done for an event if I was participating in it. And then I kind of planned backwards. I looked at the date of the event and kind of mapped it out, kind of thinking backwards to kind of help me a little bit.
Yeah.
And that helped me figure out what I needed done by what date.
So walk us through that. Like, what did this first event look like? So you said you had 15 people, which you and I we were discussing pre-recording that, the higher the number of people, a lot of times, the lower the quality of the people who are subscribing, just because they're agreeing to receive emails from so many people. And then, of course, they're on a lot of different people's lists. That's not always the case, but a lot of the time. But when we're talking about, so we have 15 people, each one's contributing a $5 resource. What was happening after that from that person who's coming in, potential customer signing up for those free resources? How are they getting them? Where are you putting them? Like, on the technical side of this, how is all of this working?
What I did was I had everything in a Google Doc, a Google Drive, and then I sent them, the participants would go to my opt-in page, and I clearly stated that there were 15 participants. You were going to be put on all their email lists. Please, if you agree to this, sign up here to get the freebie.
Yeah.
And then they would sign up. And then they got a email immediately following the sign up that said the same thing again. You're going to be on everybody's email list to make it really clear. And then there would be a link, and it was they only had access to the freebies for about 2 weeks.
Oh, I
And
love
I
that.
made that very clear too, that they had to make sure that they downloaded those freebies to their device by this date.
Yeah.
And then I did a sequence so that they would get a reminder, like 2 weeks, you got 2 weeks to go, download those freebies. And now you have 5 days to download those freebies. Hope you like them. So we made that very, very clear from the get-go.
Yeah.
Because I think people need to understand that when they sign up for an opt-in like this.
Yes, absolutely. And that just cuts down on the flip side of that. It cuts down on the tech support, people coming back to you later, like, oh, I'm having this issue, that issue. And, that was super smart of you because you're doing all of that work up front. And then you don't want to be the person stuck 3, 4, or 5 months later trying to maintain and answer customers and stuff like that. So I love that. So super simple. They're just going to an ordinary landing page, just like they're opting in to your email list, but you're just being really clear with them, like, hey, you're opting into 15, and you're sending them a link to that Google Drive. So you're not having to host anything or anything like that. So once the event is over, what happens with those emails? How are you getting those to the other participants?
My email provider, I was able to download a file that has all of the emails that signed up for that particular opt-in. And then I emailed it to everyone that participated. And we were really lucky. I don't know if it's the people that I worked with. I'm sure had something to do with it. The amount of work that they put in. We got over 4,500 email addresses.
Which is amazing.
It was, I went from 450 to 4,500. It was crazy. I think within the first day we had 1,200, and I was just excited with that.
Yeah.
I would have been happy with that. It was insane.
Yeah.
I couldn't have asked for more. But I tried to do all the legwork. I did the copy for the emails, the copy for the social media posts, the graphics for the social media. I did everything ahead of time so that people that were participating, all they had to do was schedule their posts, schedule their emails, do a notes to followers if they wanted to. And one thing that I did do, because we were all on Instagram, I collected all their Instagram accounts. I set up a group chat on Instagram so that we could engage with each other's posts.
Yeah.
So that boosts the engagement on social media just to get the awareness out there.
Absolutely.
So that I think helped a lot too. But
for sure.
It was amazing.
Yeah. And a couple of things that you said that I want to point out to people because I think they're really important. I've been involved with groups before where it's a group event and the work is divvied up among different people. And there's nothing wrong with that. But the great thing about you hosting this is it does a couple of things for you. The first thing is that because everything is already done for them, they're much more likely to go ahead and send it. The copy for the emails they're already written. The caption for their post is already written, which means that they're much more likely to actively promote, which is amazing, versus going, oh, I forgot to send that email, or, oh, I've got the email, but it's, 10 o'clock at night. And so I'm sending it late, right? Or I'm having to post at a time that's not optimum. The second thing that it does, and it makes people want to do it with you again, and it makes people tell their friends about it. Because if they don't have to do the work, they want to keep doing it, which, to some people sounds like, well, that's so much work and I could just have somebody else do it for me. But that's what gets people who are bigger than you, have bigger audiences than you. That's what makes them agree and seek you out and be like, I guarantee there are people who have asked you and reached out to you since then that you were like, oh, wow. That person, that person wants to do something.
I had two or three of the big sellers in that group reached out to me afterward and said, if you ever do this again, count me in.
Yeah.
So
because
that made me happy. Yeah, that
absolutely,
really made it worth it.
absolutely.
So, yeah.
I'm loving this. So 4,500 email opt-in. So let's talk about this because there's nothing complicated about what you did. It was work. It was hard work, but 100% worth it. And I think there's one other thing and one other objection that I've heard to doing some of these group things. And you and I actually talked about one of these objections before when they get really big. But on the smaller scale, when you're working with a fewer number of sellers, some people are worried about, well, now we're all sharing the same people on our email lists. Has your email list been profitable for you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And I will say, I did lose some people after it was over. I sent a welcome sequence and a couple of emails after that, and you're going to lose a few people. But you know what? Those aren't your people.
No.
And if you lose after gaining 4,500, if I lose even 100 people, I'm okay with that.
Absolutely.
It's still okay. They're just not my people.
Yeah. And I found too with doing these things, even if you're in a group of say 10 to 15 people like you were, that most of those people are not going to be consistent the way that you are going to be consistent with your email marketing. And so even if we're sharing some of the same, even if there's a lot of crossover between our lists, if I'm the one that's consistent, I'm the person that they know better. And most people are just not consistent with emailing their list. And so it's not the same. There's no comparison there.
And I also tried to, because I started following some of those sellers in their email list just to kind of see what they were doing so that I could be different and post something different. So I did a big email sequence nurturing my audience with how to teach writing in the beginning of the year. Because a lot of teachers don't know how to start that. And I hadn't seen anyone else really do that the first couple weeks of school. And I was able to kind of soft sell, do some selling at the end. Hey, if you're interested in more of this, click here to check out some more resources to help you.
Absolutely.
And I saw a big increase in that. And then my back to school sales were, I think I made about a 32% increase from last year.
Yeah. And it only gets better as that audience continues to get to know you over time. It just gets better and better. So let's talk about what are some of the things that you learned during this process. Is there anything that you wish you would have known when you first started? There's probably a list a mile long, huh?
I have quite the list. I learned a lot. The first thing I would do is not give participants a huge window of time to submit things. I notified people like the middle of May that I was doing this in July or August. And because it was end of the school year, I didn't want to say, hey, in addition to closing your school year out, I want some free products. So I kind of felt like I had to give a little extra time. And looking back, I kind of wish it was a shorter amount of time. Because I kind of had to hound them to like turn things in the end a little bit. But so I don't think I'd give them more than like a week or two to turn things in. The other thing I learned is that I would have participants commit and promise to sharing on social media because, again, I kind of felt like I had to be the social media police.
Yeah.
And remind people, please make sure you're posting.
Yep.
Please make sure you're sharing. So to have them commit, because there were a few people that just didn't do as much as everybody else did, and they still got
the same number of
same
emails.
list.
Yeah.
So I would have them commit to doing something. Let's see what. Oh, the other thing I would do, most definitely back up whatever you get and have. Make copies of it all because technical difficulties happen.
Yeah.
To back everything up. But I have to say it, for my first big event, I felt like it went pretty well.
It went swimmingly well. It went very, very well. Yeah.
I have to say, and I did learn some things along the way, but here's the thing. The rest of the world didn't know what happened behind the scenes. I'm the only one that knew,
Yes.
So I just learned to give myself some grace and don't ever do that again, kind of a thing.
Right.
You learn from making mistakes.
Absolutely.
And something else I would say is don't be afraid to ask people. No
Yeah.
matter how big or how small your store is, or how big of a following you have or you don't have, it doesn't matter. The worst that's going to happen is they're either going to ignore your email or your post, or they're going to say, no, I can't do it.
Yeah.
But more likely, you're going to get people saying, I can't do it now. How about next time?
Yes. Or they're going to say no, and they're going to do what some of the bigger sellers did, and they're going to wait until it's over. And they're going to talk to one of their friends who was in the group, and they're going to say, how did it go? And that friend is going to rave, and they're going to say, oh, it was absolutely amazing. And then they're going to reach out to you, and they're going to say, I want to be included next time, you know? So there's always that even if they do say no, if you run a solid event, there's a really good chance the next time will be a yes.
And the other thing is, I have done the legwork for the next time.
Yes.
All the hard work is done. All I need to go in and do is a couple of tweaks, change a little bit of language, change some dates, change a couple of images on the graphics, but it's done for next time. Because I've done the hard work already. So that's the beauty of it.
I love it. I love it. So if there's someone listening who's like, okay, I want to do this, Kristen, what is your biggest piece of advice to them?
Ooh. I would say just do it. Even if you just start small and do something. Because I didn't expect mine, in all honesty. I was expecting 3, and I have participated in other collaborations like this that were like 3 and 4 people, and that's okay. Start small.
Yeah, absolutely. I've done it with small numbers of people and had a lot of success. I've done it with, I think the most I've ever done in a grade level is maybe 6 people in a grade level, and we've gained thousands of people for, that one grade. So it can really be successful with just a small number of people, and they don't have to have large audiences. It doesn't have to be huge. Let's do some fun ones. Let's do some fun. Actually, before we move on to the fun one, let me ask you one more. When is your next email event? Do you have another one planned?
Well, I originally thought I would do one in January, and this school year has just been crazy busy for me. So I was going to do one in January. So I might do another one a little bit later, like March maybe, because I did have people reach out. So now I'm motivated to do another one.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I'm excited. You'll have to keep us updated and share whenever you do the next one, and let us know how it goes, because I'm really excited for you. And let's do some fun questions real quick. Let's do some they're off topic. We're gonna close this out. What is your favorite way to treat yourself?
Ooh, boy. I would have to say, for a quick little thing at home, I binge watch some TV.
Yeah.
Get manicures and pedicures is another one. Or date nights out.
Absolutely. I love it.
Yeah.
Favorite app on your phone?
That's a tricky one. I would have to say, lately it's been Trello. I use that a lot for just my life in general, and I use it a lot for my business. I can easily take like a screenshot of an image or a picture, just some inspiration, and send it to my Trello board and use it, because if I leave it on my phone, it just stays there in the abyss of pictures.
Yeah.
How that goes.
I love that.
So I would say Trello for sure.
Nice. Okay, so you're gifted 2 round trip tickets to anywhere in the world.
Ooh.
Where are you going, and who are you taking with you?
Well, I know for sure I'd have to take my husband, or I'd never hear the end of it. I would probably say we're big foodies at my house, I would probably say I'd go to France or Italy and just eat and drink and be merry.
Nice. What state do you live in, Kristen?
In Illinois. We're outside of Chicago.
Illinois. So if I go to Illinois, what is the one restaurant I have to eat at?
Oh, that's a hard question. There's a couple good places out in the suburbs that are really good. We live close to a place called Hugo's Frog Bar, which is like a nice like steakhouse seafood kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I like kind of the no name behind the scenes. There's some good restaurants behind the scenes in Chicago that people don't really know about.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the neighborhood like
This,
places.
yeah, the little mom and pop kind of places.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. That's like whenever I go on a trip, that's pretty much the only thing I plan is where we're going to eat. And that's it. Yeah. I'm like following the Instagrammers, the food bloggers or whatever for the local ones. And I'm like, well, we'll go there and we'll go there. Yeah,
Yep, that's what you do.
absolutely. All right. What's next for you and your business?
Well, now that my email list has grown, I am trying to send and schedule my emails a little more regularly, which is good. And I'm also in my store, I'm starting to revamp some of my thumbnails and my previews from back in the olden days that have
Nice.
confidence on them,
Yeah.
to kind of clean that up a little bit and bring that up to date. So we've been working on that.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Kristen, for coming on. Where can the listeners find you if they want to connect with you?
Sure, you can find me on Instagram at A Plus Classroom Creations. You have to spell the word plus out. And I'm also on Teachers Pay Teachers at A Plus Classroom Creations.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for coming on and for sharing your fabulous experience using networking and to grow your email list. I'm so glad that you came and shared. I think you're just an incredible example of how you can keep it really simple, but it still be really effective.
Absolutely.
So I thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So Kristen shared with you this very simple and straightforward process for growing your email list. And we talked about some little tips and pitfalls and things that you might run into along the way. But let me just share a couple of cautions with you. The first is, and I know we mentioned this inside, but I want to reiterate, it is extremely important that when you are growing your email list, first and foremost, you're partnering with people who are inside of the same niche as you. So the teachers inside of their audience are teaching the exact same thing that your buyers are teaching and vice versa, right? And the reason for this is very simple, but incredibly important. You do not want to be sending emails to people who have no interest in purchasing what you're selling or have no interest in the topic that you are talking to them about. And why? Well, beyond that, just the obvious fact of like, if they're on your email list and they're not buying anything, then there's no point in having them on your email list. Push all that to the side. The really big reason that you don't want to do this is that you're increasing your likelihood of getting marked as spam. And when you get marked as spam enough times, it hurts your sender reputation. And once your sender reputation gets damaged, it's hard to bounce back from that. Once so many people say in Gmail or in Hotmail or in Outlook or in Yahoo, once you get marked as spam so many times by a certain email service provider, they're going to start sending it all to spam. They'll even start marking you as spam for the people who are interested in getting your resources, people who are interested in being on your email list. And so you want to protect your sender reputation and make sure that you are only sending your resources to people who would actually have an interest. So not too long ago, actually, there was a big group floating around. And if you were part of this, I promise you, I'm not trying to call anybody out. I don't even remember who was heading this up. So this is definitely not directed at anyone. But I saw this big call for like anyone who teaches any of these grades. You just click the box of which grade that you teach. We're going to do this big freebie bundle and get a whole bunch of people in, and you'll get everybody on the email list. The thing was, though, it wasn't separated by niche. It wasn't separated by subject. It wasn't separated by any of that. And so anyone who participated in that was putting themselves at risk of permanently damaging their sender reputation. And we do not want to do that. Okay. So make sure that you're partnering with people who teach the same thing for you as you. And I know that we talked about this one. I know we talked about with Kristen, but I do want to come back to this. And that is smaller is better. I know that it could be really tempting to say, okay, well, if partnering with 5 people gets me 500 new leads, then partnering with 10 people would get me 1,000, or partnering with 20 people would get me 2,000. And so I'm going to partner with 20 people and just do this one time. there is that tendency to go ahead and jump the gun and get as many people as you possibly can. But the truth is that it's better to do it in smaller increments. Number one, when you're partnering with that many people, you're sharing all of those leads with that many people. And so you may get more leads, but the quality of the leads is probably not going to be the same over time. Even if you stagger out emails that come out afterwards and like try to make it so that people aren't being inundated, at some point in time, it's going to catch up to you. Those teachers are going to kind of get tired of being on 20 different people's lists, especially come TPT sale time, and it's going to kind of hurt you a little bit. And lastly, have a plan and actually email these new subscribers that you get. I think a lot of times one of the biggest disservices that we do ourselves is by doing all of the work, we grow the list, we accomplish the goal that we set out to accomplish, but then we don't actually utilize that gift that we've given ourselves. So once you have done this, once you have started to grow your list through email marketing, make sure that you also follow up with these newfound leads and that you're emailing them regularly so that they can get to know you and get to know your store. Thanks so much for listening. If you want to learn more about growing your email list or you just want to figure out where to get started, we have a really great section currently inside of RTA, inside of strategic growth. Strategic growth is all about how to grow your TPT business in a way that's purposeful and sustainable. And part of that includes email marketing. And so we teach you how to get started with email marketing inside of strategic growth. We also have an email marketing course in the works for RTA. And so if you're interested in learning more and growing more and being challenged like Kristen was, then you can find the link down in the description for joining RTA. And as a way of saying thank you to Kristen for being here, I've placed her affiliate link down inside of the description. And so if you want to support Kristen and tell her thank you, then you can use her affiliate link when you join. And as usual, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. I put out weekly content for TPT sellers to help you grow your TPT business. And it means a lot to me when I see that you guys are enjoying the content. All right, I will see you in the next video.